don't want to distract the members of the board, but we're going to call to order the Capital Program Committee for the month of January. I take it, Ms. King, we have members of the public who wish to speak?
Yes, good afternoon, Mr. Chairman. We have 6 members of the public registered to speak today. 5 are in person, 1 virtual.
Let's hear
As a
from you.
reminder, I'd like to remind all public speakers, please adhere to MTA rules of conduct and decorum. I would also like to remind all our public speakers that in the interest of time and fairness to all speakers, you're limited to 1 minute. Please be aware there will be a warning beep letting you know that you have 30 seconds to conclude your remarks. Our first speaker is Bruce Hain, followed by Jason Anthony.
You think you're going to make me argue? I'm not going to argue. I'm going to. Don't start it yet. Good morning. What is it called? Construction and planning, with planning second, or is it, construction and development? Well, that's nice. It took me an hour and 8 minutes to get into the city today from Jamaica. That's a 4-track line. It was pretty good. They built those 4-track lines, but you don't want to use the express tracks. I don't know what that's all about. It was like that last week, too. And the schedules are run on the fly. And, you can't have cross-platform transfers by running schedules on the fly, even though your engineers state publicly that they want to do it that way, and I don't think much of it. I gave you a nice thing to read last month, and I've posted it in case you haven't read it. I've posted it on railnycaccess.com. It's the 6th item in the list on the main page. And now there's a video. If you go to Bruce Hain on YouTube, you'll find the video. It's called Jamaica Capacity Improvements, LIRR, Jamaica Capacity Improvements. It explains the whole thing, because I've been trying to make this stuff clear to you, that it's existential for railroading in the United States, because we're going to have to look at the decade-age planning machinations of your engineers that are etched in stone of practical permanence, stone and steel, and that's what they're doing. They're stealing, and it might be that you're suborning the law to let these racketeers do what they're doing. So,
Please conclude your remark.
thank you.
Mr. Hain, what train were you on?
E,
The E train.
yeah, they had they were doing something on the express tracks. It was that way last month too. They can get away with it. Nobody can say anything.
Jason Anthony.
Hey, Jano. Nice to see you again on this 2024. Let's get to capital construction business, shall we? Luckily, I was able to join Jano and Jamie on the opening of another elevator, this time at Beach 67th Street on the Apple train, like I called every letter lines by food references. These elevators are unique in its class, never seen before in any other station in the subway system, that you have to tap in order to go around, take the same elevator to the platform. That's never have seen before. But we want status regarding the one on 168th Street on the 1 line. I wish that we could get an elevator at Morrison Avenue Soundview on the 6th train. That's my birth station that I will get on when I was a little kid. And last but not least, I hope that I won't have to deal with a burden when I take the Grape train to LIC due to the CBTC work. I hope that you two come up with a plan that my commute to LaGuardia Community College will be less stressful. But at the long run, we will get more frequent G trains along my neck of the woods. So with that, I'll see you guys in finance.
Our next speaker is Joseph Morales. Following him is Kara Girl. Two minutes, please.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Joseph Morales. I go to Bronx Engineering and Technology Academy. A few things I saw in this month's committee book. I'm glad to see resiliency work being prioritized at the 207th Street Yard and for the Rockaway Viaduct. I also read that the Rockaway Viaduct is being rehabilitated via a design build contract. I'm not sure about 207th, but the MTA has been really successful with the design build in the past few years, so I'm really happy about that. And the 207th Street Yard is home to several subway lines, and the Rockaway line was severely disrupted during Hurricane Sandy. So these are two big priority areas, and I'm happy to see the MTA working on both of them at once. I noticed that there are towers planned for the bus radio system at Todd Hill in Staten Island and at Kearny, New Jersey. These are both suburban areas with a lot of single-family homes, so I feel that the MTA should aim for a minimum height if they have to be built in residential areas, and that in order to maintain residents' home values, and that the MTA should be transparent with the community and be open to feedback, especially since in New Jersey there's a lot of pushback over congestion pricing, and a lot of New Jersey residents, not all, don't use MTA services, so we need to make sure we're transparent with the communities. Lastly, as the Jamaica Bus Depot is phased out, its phasing out of the current one must be coordinated with the construction of the new one. I understand that's already the MTA's plan, but we really need to make sure it runs smoothly, because if we phase out the old depot too fast, we don't want to have service disruptions. Even with the temporary parking lot, I still feel like this needs to be a point that we remember throughout the entire process. Thank you for your time.
Our final in-person speaker is Michael Cohen. After Michael Cohen will be Charlton D'Souza.
I think you skipped Kara Girl, Ms. King.
Oh, I'm very sorry. Kara Girl, and after Kara Girl will be Michael Cohen.
Thank you. Good afternoon. I'm Kara Girl, Planning and Advocacy Manager at the Permanent Citizens Advisory Committee to the MTA, PCAC. We're looking forward to hearing more today about many of the vital projects going on around the MTA region to upgrade, repair, and improve our transit system. Resiliency and flood-proofing improvements on today's agenda, like the 207th Street Yard and in Far Rockaway, only get more important with each storm. We've seen this year that torrential downpour and extreme weather are only becoming more frequent and are no longer limited to the warmer months. Protecting our infrastructure from flooding and downpours will help ensure that riders can continue to depend on transit, rain or shine. State-of-good repair work in the back-end shops and yards that riders can't see is equally as important as expansion projects like the Interborough Express and 2nd Avenue Subway Phase 2. We're thankful that the governor included funding for advancing both in her executive budget. They'll help improve transit access for people around the city. We've also been impressed by the speed at which the MTA has completed ADA upgrades around the region in recent months. From Scarsdale to Beach 67th Street, 2024 is off to a great start, and it's just the beginning. We hope that Met's Willets Point will be on the list soon, so that even more people can benefit from taking the 7 train or Long Island Railroad to all that the Willets Point area has and will soon have to offer. These are just a few of the many critical projects in the pipeline for the MTA, all around the system and region. But many of them are at dire risk if congestion pricing doesn't get over the finish line, as the Regional Plan Association found in new maps released last week. The petty lawsuits aimed only at delaying this critical law must stop, so New Yorkers and New Jerseyans alike can benefit from better transit, cleaner air, and less traffic. We urge the millions of riders who know that congestion pricing will improve our transit to testify in support at the MTA's upcoming public hearings. Our transit infrastructure and improvements depend on it. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Michael Cohen. Following Michael Cohen is Charlton D'Souza.
Hello, my name is Michael Cohen. I want to know if it's possible to speed up the implementation of the new signals for the subway that are supposed to make the subway more efficient, the communications-based train control. And if they could do that to make the subway have less delays and have more frequent trains, because on some lines like the C train, the train doesn't come often enough. It comes every half hour, sometimes every 20 minutes at other times. And like, it'd be great to have faster subway service, more predictable subway service, so we know more when I will arrive at the other end, and to have it more convenient and often so that there are more trains available at different times of the day. And regarding the Second Avenue subway, I'm glad that phase three is being in the beginning stages, that there's beginning to be a look at phase three and the work on phase three, and because that will benefit me a lot, having another subway line to take and having another connection on Second Avenue. So I hope that gets the green light soon, and I hope that it can be done on time and under budget, and that it'll be ready for sometime in the future, sometime in the next few decades at least, to have that service up and running. And I think that would attract a lot of ridership as well.
Our next and final speaker is Charlton D'Souza.
Good afternoon, everyone. Happy New Year, Mr. Chairman. Happy New Year to the board members. My name is Charlton D'Souza, President of Passengers United. There's been some technical issues with the MTA's website today, registering for the meetings. I just wanted to let you guys know. Anyway, thank you for having me on. I do want to say I'm very pleased that the Hollis station is finally going to get worked on. Thank God that you guys were listening. It needed to be that station is in really bad, dire straits. It needs to be reconstructed completely. I hope that you guys will coordinate with the city of the Department of Transportation and the city planning department to clean up all the grass and the weeds over there, and to reconstruct the road, and also to put a garden over there. There's also some issues with vermin, rats, and I'm sure you guys will work all that out. Now, I understand that the Hollis Station Long Island Railroad project is also contingent on congestion pricing being approved. So what I would say to that is there was so much money saved with all the other projects at through Third Track. So why not use some of the money from that to fix up Hollis? Why do you want to wait until congestion pricing is finally gone through? I really think Hollis is one of those stations that is in a low poverty area. There's a lot of people of color over there. And again, everyone's below the income line. So you need to really fix that station up. It needs to be a priority. It has to get done. I want to thank the board because we at Passengers United have been pushing for this for a long time. Thank you for listening. And I actually would like to meet with y'all regarding the construction of the station. There are some suggestions I wanted to make as well. Hopefully y'all will consider that. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, that concludes the public comment session.
Thank you, Ms. King, and thank you to all of our public commentators. Copies of the December Capital Program Committee minutes have been distributed and are, as always, available on the website. Are there any changes or comments to be heard at this time? No. May I have a motion to approve? Thank you, Mr. Jones. Second. Thank you, Mr. Chu. All in favor? The minutes are approved. Are there any changes to the work plan, Mr. Torresbringer?
No, they're not, Chair.
Okay. With that, let me turn it over to you for your President's report.
Thank you very much, Chair. Good afternoon, members of the committee. Glad to be back in front of the board for a very busy 2024. So let me just go through some progress we've made before handing things over for our infrastructure report. Next month, we'll be reporting a little bit more completely about our year-end progress and our targets for 2024. I did just want to give you a couple of highlights. First of all, we did, thanks to the heroics of the many folks that work at construction and development, including the leadership sitting in this room, achieve $8 billion in commitments last year. We, as we've said, would have achieved $10 billion were it not for the unnecessary delays to taking advantage of the congestion pricing funding. In fact, it was good to hear one of the public speakers mention the importance of re-signaling the Fulton line, the A and the C in Brooklyn. That was the project, total overall budgeted at about $2 billion that we were not able to award and are still not able to award due to the litigation within New Jersey and elsewhere. As we've said repeatedly, we're confident about the results of that litigation, but have to be responsible and ensure that we don't commit public funds until we can be certain that we're through that litigation. And so in addition to that, that project being held up, there are projects right now that could be awarded were it not for the fact that we're holding for congestion pricing. However, we did make some notable awards as part of that $8 billion, and that is a great trend line to show that we are really achieving what we need to achieve within the capital program. We awarded station components and track work on the 7th Avenue Broadway line. That came in under our estimate, so under budget by $9 million, 17% under budget. We awarded the package for ADA improvements on Long Island Railroad, including that Hollis station as well as Forest Hills and Babylon. Came in under budget, 7% under budget, saved $16 million versus estimate. Metro North, Brewster Yard, really important project for Metro North. Awarded that $32 million under our estimate, 17.6% under budget. And then, of course, our colleagues at the Bridges and Tunnels business unit awarded this very important next step in the retrofit of the RFK Bridge, retrofit of the suspended span, which also adds that accessible bike and ped path from Astoria to Randall's Island as part of the overall making the RFK complex accessible. That came in $57 million under estimate, 13% under budget. So we're pleased with the results that we got, and it's showing that the contracting community is responding to the many reforms that we're making at C&D. We also had a good year ramping up in completions. We hit $7.1 billion, which is a great, surely a record for us. Some notable completions. We were out with the Congresswoman opening up major improvements to the Flushing Station, the terminal station on the 7 line, which make a big difference. That project brought in on time, on budget. Long Island Railroad Cherry Valley Bridge improvements brought in on time, on budget. Metro North Harmon Shop is a generational investment in improving the shops and facilities that service most of the Metro North trains, and it's a real marker and great example for the further investments that we're making in shops and yards, which Peter will be talking about today. That we finally managed to complete. That was really a generational project. The Throgs Neck Bridge, that was brought in as the Bridges and Tunnels group expressed last month. They did miss the target by 1 month, but really accomplished a really significant amount of work during that month and brought that project in under budget. So lots of on-time, on-budget, on-time, under-budget delivery, as is being noticed more and more by C&D. We continue the historic investment in ADA accessibility. We were present opening the first fully accessible subway station of the year a couple weeks back, first of many planned for this year at Beach 67th Street in the Rockaways along the A line. This one includes a direct-to-platform elevator, which we are going to do more of, and it enables both smooth passenger flow and enables us also to work with some of those difficult station conditions where the mezzanines may not be able to handle the structural load of an elevator. So rather than having to fully rebuild a mezzanine, we're going direct to platform. 41 stations in construction for ADA, made 25 accessible since 2020. And we're still ramping up. As you may recall, this capital program included 2 stations to be named later. 145th Street on the A, B, C, and D has been selected as one of those stations, which will make this a critical transfer hub in Harlem fully accessible. We're announcing this now because we'll be applying for federal funding to advance 145th Street, along with a larger bundle of ADA stations, and that builds on the $254 million grant that we received last year for ADA accessibility, which will be advertised and awarded this year, Tim, am I right, as Package 6. So more progress on ADA. And I should mention that the progress was recognized by a new report from the Rudin Center last week. We appreciated the engagement of the Rudin Center with the challenges that we face when making stations accessible, while recognizing the historic progress that we've made in recent years. There are some best practices identified in this report, which we are paying close attention to and adopting. The big message is we need to continue funding of the capital program to maintain this historic pace of investment. Not to be forgotten, the commuter railroads, we've talked about awarding the next package for Long Island Railroad. We also opened ADA upgrades at 2 Metro North stations in the past month. With the opening of Hartsdale and then Scarsdale 1 week later, we have more than 3/4 of Metro North full-service stations in New York ADA accessible. We'll get to 80% during this capital program when we finish Purdy's and the 3 Bronx stations that we have planned. Hartsdale and Scarsdale are high-traffic stations, and we were able to make numerous improvements to the stations in the course of doing the work. I think they turned out great. Of course, following on the heels of the full funding grant agreement at the end of last year, we awarded the early works for the start of construction for 2nd Avenue Subway Phase 2. This work is relocating utilities along 2nd Avenue to make way for the first cut and cover station at 106th Street. As we noted when we announced this, one of the important lessons learned from Phase 1 of 2nd Avenue Subway was that early utility relocation is really important to making sure that we don't get delayed, and so we're proceeding as fast as we can with this important contract. I'll also note that we have identified over $1 billion in savings from those lessons learned and the design work in 2nd Avenue Subway Phase 2, with at least $300 million more identified that we're working to add into the design. We're continuing to make sure that we're delivering high-quality transit improvements for riders in East Harlem in a cost-effective way. There is an all-MTA effort to reduce incidents of fare evasion across the system, and C&D is proudly supporting that work. We completed new, more accessible fare array at Sutphin Boulevard as part of a pilot to learn more about how new gates work in our system, and we've learned a lot, and we continue to adapt the system based on those learnings. But we've seen an increase in fare payments of 20% since the installation at this station, as Rich Davey mentioned earlier in the Transit Committee. In December, we released an RFI for the next generation of modern, secure, accessible fare gates. So that's the long-term plan, is that we use these lessons learned to get to a brand new set of fare gates that are difficult, if not impossible, to evade. In the short term, Rich announced earlier, we now have variances in hand from the State Department of State that will allow us to install delayed egress on the exit gates, which we are rolling out at three stations in the near future. Again, an opportunity to test what that impact will be, but we know that the exit gates have become a significant source of fare evasion because whether someone is using them appropriately or inappropriately, they can be held open for people to stream through. And so by introducing the delayed egress, we maintain the emergency exit capacity while making it more difficult to open it on a regular basis. And so we're excited to see what the product of that is. Speaking of technology improvements in the system, we did turn on the Hudson Rail Link onto Omni today, connecting bus service in Riverdale and Spuyten Duyvil sections of the Bronx. This is a significant move in the direction of contactless fare payment across all our systems. We'll update you on Omni and the rollout very soon, but I will say it continues apace with the project management approach that we're taking at C&D. 70% of full fare riders who have full access and ability to use Omni are using Omni. And we're making progress on our initial pilot for card vending machines, which will allow for cash payments for the Omni card. That's a critical enabling piece of this, helping those other 30% of riders be able to use Omni. We're also making good progress for bulk purchasing groups like students, Department of Education students, CUNY students, reduced fare, fair fare. More to come on this soon, but good progress to report, and we're pleased to get Hudson Rail Link on the system early this morning. With that, I want to transition to our new business unit lead for infrastructure, Peter Kohner. Peter is well known to folks on the board and the committee, having served in a number of critical roles at construction and development and predecessor entities over the years, and he has really wrapped his head around some of the complexities of this very difficult business unit that has so much critical state of good repair work going on. I do want to thank Dana Hecht, our prior business unit lead, who hasn't moved very far. She continues to report to Mark Roche as the Senior Vice President for Business Enterprise and Industry Relations. So we're continuing to build out this great team at C&D and under Mark in the delivery department in particular. And with that, I want to hand things over to Peter.
Good afternoon, members of the board, Chair Lieber. Go 49ers. Go 49ers. All right, so before we get into the presentation, I'd like to talk briefly about what the infrastructure business unit is. It is the largest of the portfolio of business units within the construction and development agency. It has 300 projects in flight in various phases of completion with $9 billion worth of value. The BU, and so the real question here is, how do we do it? It's a big portfolio, it's a lot of people. We are organized into four program areas that address specifically focus of interest, and that is wayside power, focusing on much needed modernization of the power distribution network to assure reliable and safe transit operations. Facilities, the back of the house operation that are the shops, yards, and warehouses to create efficient and safe operation for our MTA employees. Line structure that operates in the right of way, both above and below the ground, where service interruptions are measured in minutes and productivity is the norm to assure timely return to service for our riding public. And finally, Sandy resiliency, focusing on protecting our assets against events like Superstorm Sandy. 2023 was a particularly rewarding year with a substantial completion of our Coney Island Yard resiliency project. This presentation will provide you a glimpse into our program areas and some of the projects. I'm sorry. Okay. But before I get there, I'd like to talk briefly about 2023. It was a productive year of $867 million in project awards and $1.2 billion in project completion. As excited as we were, we were missed on some of the results that we expected to be, and this primarily in awards area due to the late onboarding of our GEC, or General Engineering Consultant, that led to a spilling of 2023 projects into 24. And the completions, we missed our mark by strategically delaying the substantial completion on our 207th Street Yard to commercially benefit the MTA. We look forward to a very robust 2024, both in awards and in completions. What you can see on the screen is some of the glimpse into the awards and completions. Coney Island Yard roof replacement for awards, West End paint and structural repairs, 7th and 8th Avenue LaSalle line structural repair, Village Hester substation. In completions, 207th Street Yard, 63rd Street tracks fixation, New Forsyth Street fan plant, electrical and mechanical improvements at Livingston Plaza, and Avenue Z substation completion. So more on how we do it. I categorized them into three strategic areas. earlier planning, to set project baseline targets, we continue to focus on capability of our resources through training, adoption of new delivery methodology, and more competent design and approach to de-risking of our project. Greater oversight of resource, holding our teams to account to targets set. We also approach programmatic project management consultant and general engineering strategies as extension of staff to assure targeted performance, specifically project safety, cost, and schedule, and above all, quality of deliverables. And more improved bundling. We also focus on optimization of projects into bundles, thus creating a single source of accountability, as well as exploring horizontal bundling across other business units of the MTA to optimize TA labor and general orders for projects. Facilities. What you see on the screen on the left is the rail car acceptance facility in Brooklyn, and to the right, the 2023 groundbreaking of a Jamaica bus depot. This is the behind-the-scenes operation that basically support our workers and our resources to do their job safely and efficiently. Line structures. The photo above shows awards of Myrtle Avenue with overcoating. To the right, the completion of the Staten Island track replacement. Wayside power. The wayside power is a critical component of our infrastructure as it provides for safe distribution of power to our rails. In the 20-year needs, it was assessed that it is particularly vulnerable due to the aging infrastructure. The BU is ahead of this by modernization and refurbishing and adding substation across the system already. The photo above shows the Patchen substation, Fulton Street line, commissioned in 2023. Sandy recovery and resiliency. There's a snapshot of the number of assets and category of assets that were completed under this program. The final program is the Sandy and resiliency. Thanks to support from the FDA and MTA, an overall $8 billion program was made to the entire system to make it more resilient. At infrastructure, we are responsible for $4.5 billion, of which 2/3 is complete, and the remainder is in construction and design. As you can see, the scale of the investment is hard to wrap your head around, protecting hundreds of critical assets throughout the locations. I would like to now take you for a brief ride throughout Coney Island, introduced by our PCO.
Hi, I'm Deirdre Harvey, PCEO of Coney Island Yard Flood Mitigation. Coney Island Yard is now more protected than ever against extreme weather events. The 100-acre complex is encircled with over 2 miles of 12 to 15-foot steel reinforced flood wall. To complete this perimeter protection against flooding, each of the yard's 9 access points have been outfitted with heavy-duty flood doors or stop-log barriers that can be deployed in advance of severe weather. Power and communication cables now span the yard on an elevated cable bridge instead of buried underground, keeping them safely out of risk and making them easier to maintain. 2 pump stations and 20,000 linear feet of underground drainage have also been added to mitigate flooding from rainfall. These protections work together to mitigate damage to equipment and potential service delays coming out of Coney Island Yard during any extreme weather event, ensuring a safer and sustainable future for our property and our assets.
I would like to add that this project was completed with minimal disruption to the yard, enabling 800 rail cars to be moved around as required, as well as not too much of a distress to the 3,000 employees that are housed in this particular project. 207th Street Yard is another resiliency project that is being put together in the Bronx, in Manhattan. The 207th Street Yard is a design bid build project under Sandy, has been strategically aligned to bring together 5 separate projects under one project management team for single point of accountability to control cost, schedule, risk, and safety. For those not familiar with the project implemented 4,500 feet of flood walls, 5 floodgates, signal tower and signal work, and 200,000 square feet of roof over the shop. The 207th Street sewer work is progressing, and we are mitigating our delays, anticipated completion in fourth quarter of 2024. Another project that is worth of mentioning is the Rockaway Line Resiliency, otherwise known as Hamels Y. This is a prime example of where we have aggregated all components of the 4 business programs we have in our repertoire, which is the line structures, shops and yards, resiliency, and wayside power. This project was bundled to minimize the disruption and maximize a 16-week shutdown planned for the winter of 2025. A supplemental 16-week transportation plan has been developed to minimize the effects on the riding publics of the Rockaways. The most critical and challenging aspect of this work is the coordination with city agency, Coast Guard, and maritime operation. We are also working closely with elected officials, community relations, and operation planning to ensure that the community is fully informed and that sufficient alternate travel options are made available during this shutdown. Bus radio. This project has been reported on over the years. I'm happy to report that this project is now nearing substantial completion. I'm also happy to report that since the last briefing, we reported a pilot program for a radio test. This test was successful and is now working on more than 3,300 buses over 6,000 bus fleet. The project is forecasting completion of August 2024. Jamaica Bus Depot reconstruction, or rather new actually. The Jamaica Depot is a $654 million project to replace existing old Jamaica Depot. The current building was built in 1939 and is in poor working condition. The new depot will have maintenance building with rooftop parking, outdoor parking lot and administration building tied to the depot with a bridge. Upon substantial completion, the depot will also be able to accommodate 60 electric buses. However, the entire depot is designed to accommodate an all-electric fleet projected for the 2030 under a separate contract. This project is currently delayed due to the York parking lot issue with the drainage. The designer of record had to redesign the system to meet new guidelines for the stormwater pollution prevention plan. The lot is currently under construction, and the contractor is working on mitigation of the delay. Mainline trucks replacement. This is the third leg of this project, 63rd Street. It is currently under construction and is forecasted to be completed by March 31st, 2024. The project outage is being supported by shuttle service as well as in-house operation. This is a challenging project. Includes a replacement of 25,000 feet of track, third rail, and installs newly engineered composite ties, which will extend the life cycle of the main line. We know this has been an impactful project for customers, and at the end of it, the restored track should last for approximately 50 years. And that ends my presentation.
Okay, a lot of big projects. Yeah, a lot of big projects, and a lot of them that involve a ton of community collaboration. I just want to underscore that's part of our challenge and C&D's challenge is making sure that people understand 63rd Street, I think, did a pretty good job of that. Obviously, a little bumpy at the beginning, but getting very good feedback from folks who are being impacted there, especially Roosevelt Island. But we got to do a great job on making sure that everybody in the Rockaways understands why that shutdown is necessary, and that everyone has information about the alternatives that are being brought to bear. It's like the G train outage, which is occasioned some public conversation is 6 weeks long. This is a little, the Hamels Y impact on the Rockaways with the A-Train's a little longer, and we got to get it right. That's a very transit-dependent community. At this point, we'll hear from the IEC and then invite the board to comment and question.
Thank you and good afternoon, Mr. Chairman. As part of the IEC's oversight responsibilities, we have analyzed a total of 129 infrastructure projects for both cost and schedule performance. These projects were featured in the latest traffic light report presented at last month's CPC meeting. The IEC reviewed infrastructure variance reports that cited problems that were encountered, and we agree that with the corrective measures that have since been executed by C&D. The IEC also undertakes more detailed project monitoring with our in-depth reports of the 5 infrastructure projects we are reporting on today, beginning on page 18 of your committee book. Regarding the 207th Street, the IEC reports the following. The project is 97% complete. The project current budget is $637 million with an estimated completion of $642 million. The IEC forecasts an EAC within the project's current budget. Since our last report, C&D's forecast for substantial completion has slipped from November 2023 to May 2024 due to unforeseen field conditions. IEC concurs that with the May 2024 substantial completion date. The IEC notes that the facility has and remains in operation throughout construction, and this delay does not materially impede yard operations. Top remaining risks include the rapid response and coordination to differing site conditions, the delay in inspections impacting occupancy of the relay towers, and maintaining sufficient resources to complete contractual requirements for substantial completion. The IEC considers the risk mitigations implemented on this project to have been effective in minimizing further impacts. On 207th Street sewer replacement, the project is 75% complete. The current project budget and EAC is $153 million, a decrease from last report. The IEC concurs with this EAC. The substantial completion forecast remains November 2024, but the project team is working to improve this forecast by taking advantage of track outage opportunities. To address top project risks, the IEC would like to highlight that site investigations are being conducted to minimize the impact of additional unforeseen conditions around the yard track. In addition, continuous coordination is underway with adjacent yard contracts to eliminate conflicts with competing resources and access. On Rockaway Line resiliency and viaduct rehabilitation, this is the IEC's first report on this project, which started in December 2022 with completion forecast for August 2026. The project is 25% complete with a budget of $599 million. The IEC notes the project is on schedule and budget. All design tasks have progressed as anticipated, and major construction is scheduled to commence in early spring 2024. The IEC notes that a unique set of challenges and risks have been identified on this project, including the difficulty of undertaking structural repairs and resiliency improvements in a marine environment, construction at a swing bridge, the construction of a new signal tower, and work on an elevated structure, and also the need to closely coordinate the work with several stakeholders, including the New York City DOT, DEP, and the Coast Guard. In the IEC's opinion, the project team has been actively mitigating these project risks. On bus radio system, this project is 75% complete. The project budget is $315 million, with C&D's current estimated completion at $355 million due to pending and potential change orders and additional TA labor and consultant support expenses. The IEC, however, forecast an EAC of $360 million due to a later substantial completion date and our assessment of risk on remaining work. While the project team forecasts a substantial completion in August 2024, unchanged since last report, the IEC forecasts substantial completion no earlier than December 2024 due to the resolution and completion of all outstanding technical issues. Since our last report, significant progress has been made in several critical areas, including bus installations, with more than half of all buses retrofitted and placed in service, providing the MTA with an updated radio system. The installation of mobile base stations and utilization of 800 MHz frequency or bandpass filters can mitigate the radio coverage and frequency issues that C&D and the IEC have cited in previous reports. Full system load and stress testing remains a risk moving forward. On Jamaica Bus Depot, this is the first time the IEC is reporting on this project to the board. The project is 13% complete. Current budget and EAC are $654 million. The IEC concurs with this EAC. Due to redesign and late permitting of a temporary parking lot needed to maintain continuous operation of the facility during construction, the project has experienced a delay of 8 months. As a result, the current substantial forecast has shifted from December 2026 to August 2027. Of note, however, is that C&D is working with the contractor to improve this forecast, and with substantial time remaining on the project, the IEC agrees that some schedule recovery is possible. The top risks have been identified and their respective mitigations are being developed. This concludes the IEC's comments on C&D's infrastructure business unit.
Okay, just to confirm, the issue on Jamaica Bus Depot was that the permit for the stormwater capacity of the temporary parking lot took some additional engineering and approvals, correct? And you guys are committed to trying to recapture that time, am I correct? Because
there's also some mitigations underway. You know, we initially planned to have no disruption to services in the building, but as we've worked with the folks who run the place, we can move into new places earlier than we thought. So we think we have some pretty good mitigation measures to get back on schedule.
Okay. All right. Well, let's hopefully see those in the months to come. I'm going to skip quick Q&A for the moment and come back to it because we're going to lose a quorum, and I want to do the procurement. So, Ms. Boudwa, would you quickly lead us through procurements?
Thank you. Construction and Development is presenting 2 procurement actions totaling $3.3 million to the Capital Program Committee for approval this month. The procurement package contains 1 competitive action for an authorizing resolution to use the RFP process in lieu of sealed bids to procure a series of indefinite quantity contracts for asbestos abatement and environmental remediation services. The package also includes a request to ratify a modification for additional design services for the Penn Station reconstruction project. These items are described in detail in the staff summaries contained within your committee books, and I hereby submit them for your consideration and vote.
I have a motion. Mr. Chu, thank you, Mr. Jones, for the second. Any questions, comments before we take a vote? Okay. All in favor of the procurements? Any opposition or abstention? Okay, the items carry. Now, moving back to the, now that we're done with procurements, thank you, Dr. Rizzo. We're just an opportunity for board members to ask questions. This is, you know, the presentation today didn't talk about every project, but, you know, coming from C&D as I do, this is the biggest business unit. This is the stuff that makes it possible to run all these systems and some of the most complicated projects. So I just want to acknowledge that team has come together and is managing a huge workload, but also give the board members a chance to ask questions or make comments. Anything? Guess not. Okay. Yeah. A lot of work. We like the phrase on time and on budget, and we're going to get it back for Jamaica Bus Depot, right? All right. There's nothing else on the agenda for today. Anything else before we adjourn? Okay. May I have a motion to adjourn? Thank you, Haida. Thank you, Mr. Chu. We are adjourned.